In today's video, we are going to be working on some DIY home decor that is going to be perfect for the summer and all of those patriotic holidays that are coming up. I hope that you enjoy the Americana inspired projects. Let's get started. For this project, we are going to start with these signs. I picked these up from Dollar General. They were originally $1, but I got them when they were 50% off. Great deal. Love doing that just to get my bases for some of my projects. And I'm just using my heat gun to help get the sticker off. That's just a little bit easier. And then we're going to also take the front of these off, going over it, sanding off whatever sticky stuff is left. And we're just going to give ourselves a clean, fresh slate. You could also just use a wood block, whatever you want to do. But this is what I'm doing. And I'm just showing this to you in case you haven't seen this before. That top layer is usually a little plasticky, peeling that off, soaking it with a paper towel, and then scraping it. Now they are all fresh and clean. I'm doing 3 of these. We are going to be doing red, white, and blue. Well, because we're doing some Americana DIYs. Also, bear with me. My voice is crackly and all that. I'm not sure what's going on, but I realized today that I was kind of losing my voice. But I'm going to get through this voiceover, so hopefully it's not too rough to listen to. I'm going to paint this black, sides, front, and back, and I am using Crimson by Waverly. For our red, we're also going to use Oceans by Waverly for our blue, and then some white. And we're going to give that a good coat and let that fully dry. If you are new here, I hope that you decide to stick around and subscribe because I love to share easy, fun, budget-friendly DIYs on this channel, and I would love to have you around. I'm going to go ahead and paint the next one blue, and I'm going to also paint these stars you see there to the right. I pulled out 3 of them. We're going to paint 2 of them. They came in a pack, I believe, from Hobby Lobby. Inexpensive. They come in a variety of sizes, and I pulled out 3 of the larger ones, and we're going to paint one of them blue and one of them white. I kind of planned this at a time and sketched it out. You can kind of, in my mind, well, actually I did on paper so that I knew what colors I was doing what, but you can do this, obviously, however you want. Now, for this white paint, I am using a chalk paint from Dollar General, and as you can see, it is not great coverage. So this took a few coats of paint. From what I understand, their black chalk paint is better, but the white, not that great, but I have it, so I'm going to use it. I do at some point switch to my Waverly white paint here because this was exhausting. Anyways, my 3rd star, I painted some Mod Podge there you saw just a second ago. Let that dry, and then I'm using some scrapbook paper that I had on hand, parchment paper, and then a mini iron to reactivate the Mod Podge and get the paper to adhere. If you do not have a small iron, you can use your household iron. I have done that before I had this one here, and just make sure you don't use any steam. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of sandpaper to go downward on the paper to take off any excess. We're going to kind of bounce back and forth here, but they're all for the same project. We are now back to our blue star, and I'm going to stencil on some little white stars. This is a stencil I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and it's got a variety of sizes, and so I'm just going to do a few of them. I'm going to do whatever I can, dry them with my heat gun, and then that way I don't smudge it and go in and do some more. At some point I had too much paint on my pouncer brush, and a couple of them came out. I didn't want them to be perfect, but a couple of them came out a little too messed up. And so I painted over them and, redid some white stars. And then for the white star, the white big star, I am going to paint some red stripes, and I'm just making some lines here using what is basically washi tape. It is from the Dollar Tree. I don't remember what they call it, but it's essentially washi tape here, and I'm just going to make some lines and then paint that with our red paint. You could do all of these with scrapbook paper. You could do them solid. There's a lot of different things you can do. I kind of looked for some inspiration pictures and then looked at what I had on hand and did that. And then came up with an idea from that. The red paint on the white, I did do 2 coats because it just wasn't dark enough for me. Although I didn't do perfect coats because we are going to make these a little bit more rustic. America is getting pretty old here. We got a big birthday coming up. So I don't mind if my patriotic decor is looking a little old and like it's been around a while. I'm going to pull off our tape. We've got these perfect little red and white stripes, and that will do it for now. Now, before we go ahead and attach our stars, I'm making these a double-sided sign. So before I had it was going to lay as flat once I attached the stars, I decided to do this side first. And I'm just pulling out some stencils and we're going to stencil on USA. Pretty simple. I do have some paper stencils. I've gotten them from Dollar General and Dollar Tree, but I also have these plastic ones that are adhesive, and these are great. I got these from Hobby Lobby, or no, maybe it was Walmart a long time ago. Just use what you got. Once again, I just kind of figured out, how to alternate the colors accordingly in a way that I thought looked good. You can see on the red one there, I got some white paint in the wrong spot. It went over the stencil a little bit, but we're going to touch that up in just a second, and you'll never even know. If you are enjoying this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Hitting that like button is a really easy way to help me out or help out any creator. And also, you can do it from any device you're watching on. If you are watching from your phone, I think this is the only place you can hype a video. But if you are and you can, I would appreciate that too. Hype the video. It helps put my video out. I decided with this stencil that I didn't like the gap in the A. I think it would have minded it less if there was a gap on all of the letters, but that was the only one that had it for this particular word or, in the USA. So I'm just touching that up with a small brush. I just thought it looked better. And once that was fully dry, I am going to flip them over and we are going to attach our stars. I am using a Gorilla household glue, I think is what it's called. I decided to do hot glue as well on the first one to try to get it to attach quicker, but I don't really like to use hot glue on some of these things because it just doesn't lay quite as flat. You can see there the blue star is now finished with more white stars. I don't think I had shown that completed before, but we're going to get all of these attached. Because of that hot glue, I ended up putting just some bottles on that to kind of like weigh it down to make sure it all attached because I felt like the hot glue was keeping it. I don't love hot glue for all of that, but you do you. Anyways, I skipped that for the rest of them. And once again, I did kind of plan this out ahead of time, what colors I was going to put where. So just give it a little bit of thought before you go too far into this so that, you make sure you have stuff that looks good to you. And once we got those all attached, I let them dry. That glue doesn't take a really long time to dry, but, I gave it a little bit of time. And now we're going to go in and make these look a little old here. So I'm going in with some antique wax and a chippy brush, and I'm going to do all of the sides, front and back. Now, I waited to do this because I didn't want the antique wax to get in the way of the stars attaching to the blocks on the front. But I was intentional when I put the antique wax on the side with the stars to make it look like the antique wax was down first, if that makes sense. Obviously, this is a completely optional step. If you don't have antique wax, you could also use some brown paint. Water, you don't necessarily need to water it down. Just make sure you don't have too much on your paintbrush. Just, be careful with that. Anyways, I like the rustic look, so this is what I'm doing. And I don't show it displayed this way, but I do think this would be cute down the center of it is on a table with it when I'm going to show it to you, but it's not where I'm planning to leave it. I love that it's double-sided. You could use it as a tier tray or part of a centerpiece on a table, which is what I'm thinking I might do. I'm not sure. Anyways, I love how these came out. Let me know what you guys think about them. I love the opportunity to do a double-sided sign. Whenever you can, why not? And this was a great opportunity to do it. And I felt like it was, they were different enough that it just, I don't know. I'm tired. I'm losing my voice. But let me know what you guys think about this one. I have this frame that I had previously painted white, but you could also use a already painted white frame, or a wood frame would be really cool for this too. We're going to do the crackle effect. So I'm going in with some of that liquid glue, and I'm just brushing this on with a paintbrush. I accidentally put out too much glue, so I'm going to take some of that off. Having too much glue isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was way too much. I know it's kind of hard to see on the white frame. Just remember that how thick your glue is going to play a role in how much the paint crackles. But I also didn't want it to be so thick that it was going to take a while to dry. Now, I've done this a couple different ways. You can do it while the glue is wet, or you can let the glue dry. Basically, lately, I've been doing a little bit of both. I let it dry partially. I am using my heat gun, but I'm making sure that it is not a hot heat so that it doesn't make the glue tacky. You can just let it air dry or do it when it's wet. You can also use a hair dryer. Whenever I use a heat gun, you can also just know that you can use a hair dryer instead. The little pegs in the back that hold the glass in were falling off here. I was trying to use that to hold it up and they were falling off. So I'm just going to prop this up on some bottles of paint so that I could get the sides as well. Especially if the glue is not fully wet, you want to go over with as few strokes as possible so that you don't pull the glue back up. So that's why I'm going in pretty thick and trying to not go over it back and forth too much. And I'm going to cover the whole thing. I'm using Crimson by Waverly. Once again, I do love to use that both for Christmas and for my patriotic colors. It's a good tone of red. I think so anyway. Let me know, do you decorate for the 4th of July or with Americana decor? I often do Memorial Day through Labor Day. I like it. It's fun for summer. Here I am drying it with my heat gun. You don't have to do this. You can let it air dry as well. Again, don't use hot heat if you're going to use it. I'm just using it for air to speed it up. And you can see that crackle developing. I absolutely love this. But of course, I wasn't going to leave it there. But isn't it some great crackle? Oh, I love it. I'm going in with some antique wax and a chippy brush. We're going to brush this on. I let the paint and glue completely dry. Like, I did speed it up with my heat gun, but then I let it air dry. And so just putting that out there. And I'm going to brush this on and wipe it off until I get the intensity of the aged look that I wanted. I definitely wanted to make sure that the white wasn't a stark white, and I wanted to just kind of tone down the red a little bit. And that's because that's the look that I like. I did do the sides too. They didn't have as much crackle, but I did have some there. Now I have Oh Beautiful for Spacious Skies on some printed sheet music. This is from an older book that was kind of falling apart, so I don't mind using it. I know some people don't like that. I just feel like this might go in the trash, so why not use it for something else? I'm cutting down the sides. I just use the glass to measure it. If you don't have this on hand, go ahead and find some free printables online. I am gluing those little tabs back in there, and we're going to put our glass in. And then I decided I wanted to make the music paper look a little bit old. You can also stain this with tea or coffee. I just crinkled it up. It's already a yellowish page anyway. It's not like a stark white. So I just wrinkled it up and then put this together. And then I did go in with a little bit of rubbing alcohol because I had that right there from cleaning the glass and was cleaning up the back of the frame a little bit. And then I decided I wanted a little bit of detail, but not much. So I pulled out my chippy brush that I had used the antique wax on. It was in water, like being rinsed. So there wasn't much left on there. So it just kind of like lightly stained this wood star. This is from a pack from Hobby Lobby, and I hot glued that onto the corner. And I really do love how this came out. I thought about putting something on the glass as well, but I'm going to save that for another project. I have some ideas floating around, but let me know what you guys think about this. I really love this one, and this is probably going to wind up on my mantle. I have this wood piece that a friend gave to me. It was a part of something at some point. I don't know what. And I needed a hole in the top. I knew this was a softer wood. This was pretty easy to do. I used kind of a unique bit for the end of my screwdriver. And then along with some other tools I had in my craft room to make a hole here. You could use a drill. I don't have it. Well, my husband has a drill. I don't have one in my craft room. I was just using what I had. This is a pretty soft wood. But depending on what you got to work with, you might need a drill. You could nail in a nail. I made a hole in this piece. Now I'm going to stain it using some antique wax. I will say I kind of forgot until I was putting all of the final clips in here to do my editing that I planned to stain this with antique wax and then go over it with some white paint and a chippy brush to brighten it up again, and I forgot. So I'm not gonna just redo it. This is what I've got. I don't hate it, but I had meant to do that to lighten it up a little bit. But anyways, this is a pretty raw piece of wood, so the antique wax really soaked in there. And then I'm also going to stain this wooden skewer. They come in packs from the Dollar Tree or Walmart, wherever. And I didn't do the whole thing because I'm not going to need the whole thing. And then I have this flag. This came from a decor set from Dollar Tree years ago. I'm sure you can find different decor pieces that you can take apart and use like this. Now, it had a pretty waxy coating on it, so I had to let the antique wax sit a little bit longer this time and then brush it off, because the first time it just kind of all wiped off because it's not very papery. Now I'm cutting down my skewer, and as you can see, this flag is not the same on both sides. So like one side, it's going the wrong way. So I will use this again probably on my mantle where you won't be able to see both sides of it. But you know, you can use a real flag too, like a small mini flag if you want. To help the wooden skewer get in that hole I made a little bit easier, I'm just using a sanding paper to kind of get a little bit of a point at the bottom there. And then I'll just use some glue. I didn't use hot glue because I didn't want it to harden too quick and me not be able to get the skewer in there. I also cleaned it out again because some antique wax got in there. So I just wanted it cleaned out. Going to put a little bit of glue in there and put this little flagpole in there. I just thought this would be a really great filler piece. I don't love how it looks, how I'm displaying it to you here at the end, but I just wanted you to get a good look at it. I will probably layer things in front of it. I will definitely layer things in front of it, but I love how this looks, and it's just kind of like a more old rustic look. And again, if that's not your style, you can do it your way, but really inexpensive and easy to make something like this happen. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. And if you're new, of course, don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And if you made it to the end, leave me a red, white, or blue heart down in the comments so that I know that you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.